Greetings, my name is Rafael and I will be presenting the paper Freehand Drawing as a Didactic Instrument. The results I will present are part of a PhD research regarding the role of representation in architectural design teaching. Today I will talk about one of our case studies, the Faculty of Architecture of the University of Porto. This paper was guided by the following research question: how freehand drawing teaching influences design teaching. The bibliography regarding freehand drawing as a design instrument is extensive and diverse, underlining its different associated procedures such as perception, conception, and communication. Less relevance has been given to freehand drawing as a didactic instrument, that is, as a means used by instructors and students for the transmission and acquisition of knowledge. It is intended to consider the didactic role of freehand drawing and its importance in the architectural design teaching, based on the analysis of the intersections between the courses of drawing and architectural design at this school. Methodologically, the school was approached as a qualitative embedded single case study, considering three unities of analysis: the educational purposes, principles, and practices. As a way of guiding the procedures of data collection and analysis, a characterization matrix was defined, relating the three unities of analysis with the three main sources of evidence, namely the instructors, expressing how the educational model is assumed, the classes, expressing how is achieved, and students, expressing how it's acquired. The main research methods used were the naturalistic observation, participatory observation, in-person interview and conversation, individual or in group, complemented with artifact analysis and documentary and bibliographic review. All courses of drawing and architectural design from the 5 years of the master's program were attended systematically in order to record different moments of teaching, such as regular desk critiques, intermediate evaluation, and final presentations. Field data were collected through direct observation and recorded at the moment in the raw field notes. Considering the exploratory nature of the research, an open collection model was followed during the recording sections. Later, the field notes were revised and transcribed to digital form and submitted to thematic analysis. Data were collected from 2 drawing courses and 5 architectural design courses or design studios. All 7 courses are annual and mandatory. There is a curricular alignment in this master's program, whether in terms of content, pedagogical objectives, or teaching approach. This means that the instructor of each class, both in design studios or drawing courses, has to follow the plan structure that was collectively defined. There is also a particularity in the curriculum of this school, a special rule that dictates that in the first 2 years of the Masters, students cannot use the computer. We will come back to this rule later. Regarding the organization, the objective of the first-year drawing course is to systematize the instrumental and expressive component of freehand drawing by teaching students the techniques and knowledge necessary for representation. The exercises do not directly relate to design in the sense of space production, but address important issues of spatial recognition and understanding. Students draw outdoor spaces, natural or built, indoor spaces, human figure, objects, during which they explore geometric problems, relationships and scales, or the effects of light and shadow on surfaces. In the second year, the drawing course is directly related to the corresponding design studio, using the intervention site as an object of study. First using visual drawing to recognize the characteristics of the site, then practicing free or intuitive surveys, drawing plans, sections, elevations, and aerial perspectives. Later, as the design proposal is being developed, students test in this course their design proposals on the drawings they made previously. Skills such as expression and communication are also developed in this course. And now about design studios. In the first 2 years, the pedagogical objectives are to introduce students to the elementary tools of design through the mastery of the various systems of representation, as well as on the acquisition of procedural capacities, including experimentation and synthesis skills. These objectives continue to be developed in the following years, seeking to make students progressively more autonomous. The exercises also become more and more complex through the introduction of programmatic, urban, and regulatory constraints. The topics covered in the design studios are: in the first year, the composition of the interior-exterior space with a simple program. In the second year, intervention in the consolidated city. In the third, multifamily housing. In the fourth, public equipment. In the fifth, urban design. Considering the teaching approach, there are several aspects in common between drawing courses and design studios. The classes are practical and based on a tutor-apprentice model. Students learn by doing, through practical exercises, followed by an instructor, who is at the same time an experienced professional. All design studios instructors are architects, most of them with constant professional experience. Also in the drawing courses, all the instructors are trained in fine arts, whether in painting or sculpture. Classes are made up of about 30 students. As there is a prevalence of individual work in this school, it is important that the classes are not too large for the instructor to be able to monitor each student. There is a great investment of instructors in monitoring students and in real-time intervention. We will also talk about this later. The interaction between instructors and students is mainly done through freehand drawing, either directly in the students' productions, using the corner of the sheet for notes or perspectives, or using tracing paper. Both in design studios and drawing courses, there is a focus on the work process. In developing the exercises, students are motivated to produce a large number of representations, with different objectives depending on the courses, and to keep them for evaluation moments. Especially in design studios, the process elements are usually large sheets composed of different types and representative systems, as we can see in this picture. Considering the interactions between drawing courses and design studios, the most clear and direct take place during the first 2 years, when both coexist. It is during these 2 years, as I mentioned, that students are not allowed to use the computer. This rule seems to have different objectives. It reinforces a request made by instructors for students to forget what they know so far, the knowledge they may have of representational instruments or about architecture itself must be suspended for the first 2 years to learn from scratch. This rule also seems to reinforce the importance of freehand drawing itself, as it makes it a necessity with a recognizable utility. Students learn to draw and then apply what they learned in the design studio. This corresponds to an educational strategy to face the background diversity of students, a problem usually referred by instructors. The students are placed in the same level, in the same starting point, equipped with the same basic knowledge and skills. In design studios, after the second year, students are allowed to use other forms of representation. However, during desk critics, freehand drawing is always used. Instructors ask students to print their proposals, whether developed in AutoCAD or Revit or ArchiCAD, so they can draw on it. An interesting aspect is that even during pandemics, freehand drawing continued to be used by instructors to monitor students' work. In this regard, we presented and published a paper last year. Considering the teaching approach of both courses, intersections seem to happen at 3 levels: conditions and components of didactics and capacities to be developed in students. The first condition of didactics seems to be a basic training of students in representation and particularly in freehand drawing, which is accomplished in the first 2 years of drawing courses, during which the student cannot use digital media. As stated in this school, freehand drawing is both the main working tool for the students and their means of learning. A second condition for didactics, whether in drawing or architectural design, is the creation of a social environment conducive to learning, based on the relationship between instructor and student. Although teaching at this school focuses mainly on the individual student training, a sense of community and union, of mutual help and competition is visible in the classes. This classroom environment or situation is intended to give the student confidence to take risks or eventually to fail, to accept the instructor's requests as exercises that have a pedagogical objective. A third condition shared by the drawing courses and design studios is time. All courses are annual and have a significant workload, which guarantees that the work to be developed between instructors and students extends over the entire academic year, allowing them to approach the exercises in depth. However, time has a different importance in drawing courses than in design. In drawing courses, classes are organized based on the development of several exercises, often exploring different issues in the same class. During the academic year, what is expected is that students come into contact with a wide range of techniques and learn how to work with different representative systems. In design studios, students can spend a full year working on the same exercise, albeit segmented in several phases. The idea is that the student has time to explore the design, experimenting and reflecting on the different solutions. Instructors encourage students not to be in a hurry to find a solution, to give themselves up without fear to this slow process of design research. There seem to be three common components of Liveatics in drawing and design courses. The first has to do with the systematic monitoring of students. As these courses are practical-based, that is, based on the resolution of practical exercises, the instructor's main form of action is to monitor the work, giving important feedback to the students about their progress. The monitoring as conducted at this school is particularized by the intense and continuous interaction between the instructor and students. Several instructors mention the importance of acting directly on difficulties in real time, that is, in the work process, and not at the time when the results are presented. It is much more profitable for students to be warned of an error or a vice at the moment they are committing it. During the monitoring of the work, it is very common for the instructor to interact with the student mainly through freehand drawing. The need to draw during monitoring is actually mentioned by several instructors. Drawing is also a way to reveal the student's knowledge. This revealing drawing is both the material produced previously and presented to the instructor, as well as the drawing produced during monitoring. The moment students draw is a confirmation both of their knowledge and their difficulties. That's why instructors ask students to keep all the drawings produced, working as a record of their mental trajectory and progress. With the same purpose, instructors encourage students in the first 2 years to develop graphic diaries. The second component of Liveatics is precisely the transmission of knowledge, which in the case of drawing and design courses is mainly related to know-how. The transmission of knowledge takes place mainly through freehand drawing during the desk critiques. It happens more or less tacitly, with the guidance of the student, pointing out errors, problems, vices. In some occasions, the instructor can use freehand drawing to explain something specific. On the left, we can see a set of drawings made by an instructor to explain how to design an auditorium, taking into account mandatory requirements and dimensions. During the monitoring, students also draw. They can ask the instructor a question through a new drawing, quickly drawn in a corner of the sheet to clarify some aspect, such as a constructive question, as we can see on the right. Didactics is continuous or intermediate evaluation. Both in drawing and design courses, practical classes are punctuated by more or less formal moments of evaluation, where students must present the work done so far. In these moments of suspension from work, students have the opportunity to learn about their own evolution, such as their colleagues, to see where they started and where they are now. It is also an opportunity to recognize the relationship between didactics and the results achieved, which is an important aspect of the learning process, because one of the difficulties of this type of didactics is the mismatch between awareness of learning and its experience. Finally, there are 3 skills or capacities that students should be able to acquire during the Masters. These capacities seem to correspond to the school's pedagogical objectives, which are at the base of what is believed to be fundamental in the architect's training. There are the instrumental capacities. As mentioned before, instrumental capacities are mainly developed in the first 2 years based on teaching learning freehand drawing. These work as a base training, which is then enriched with other forms of representation, such as the physical model or the digital tools. The instrumental capacities related to drawing are also stimulated and enhanced in design studios. Students learn how to draw in the drawing course, and then they apply what they know in the design studio. Secondly, there are the procedural capacities. The design process is a complex activity that encompasses recognition, transformation, and communication procedures. In the construction of this complex process, the drawing courses play an important role. While the transformative dimension is mainly developed in the design courses, where the conception procedures are stimulated, in the drawing courses, procedures such as perception, analysis, visualization, and communication are explored. As can be seen, there is a reciprocal complementarity between the drawing and design courses. If, on the one hand, freehand drawing is taught as a design instrument, it is in the design course that is enhanced through a practical application of what students have learned. Finally, there is the personal sensibility, which can be understood from the school's artistic matrix. Sensibility is related to the critical sense because it is in it that the student finds the most fundamental criterion. In addition to all the constraints and technical issues that can guide the design solution deep down, the decision is made through sensibility. This capacity, as well as the critical sense, are attributes that matter to the student not only as a professional, as an architect, but above all as a citizen. With this paper, it was aimed to understand the role of freehand drawing in architectural design teaching through the intersections of these courses in the Master's Program in Architecture at the Faculty of Architecture of the University of Porto. It seems possible to refer that the intersections are deep and structural in the curriculum. In the first 2 years, there is a direct link and complementarity, reinforced with the rule of prohibition of digital media, but whose effects last indirectly in the following years of the Masters. These intersections between drawing and design courses correspond to a pedagogical alignment in terms of educational assumptions and purposes, and are reflected in an essential common didactic approach. Freehand drawing seems to be a transversal element in the identified intersections, whether at the level of curricular organization or of the teaching approach, being not only a design instrument, but above all, a didactic instrument, used by instructors and students as a common trading platform.